your iPad or your phone or whatever. So it's a really great form. It's super easy to use, and it is going to start with our September expense reports. So you'll be turning those in to your supervisors within the next week or so, and you'll be using this new form. So for, obviously all of you are here, but if there are, a bunch of staff that are not on the call, we are recording this session today, so they'll be able to come back and watch this. In addition, Eric has put together a great guide and a step-by-step process to show you how to use this expense report. For those that are not on the call, or if, after the call, it sort of all goes out the window and you forget how to do it when it comes time to submit your expense report next week. From the manager's perspective, those managers out there that need to approve their staff members' expense reports, we're going to have another session specifically for managers that show how to review and approve your staff's expense reports, and that will be coming out next week along with a guide for that as well. So I will let Eric go ahead and get started and start walking you through how to access and use our new expense report template.
Thank you, Stephanie. And can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay, great. So I've actually gone ahead and just muted everyone for the call just because it's a really short form and it's not a very long presentation. But we will unmute everyone in a couple minutes for questions. So if you have any questions, it's just a couple-minute presentation, and then we'll open it up to all those questions at the end. But thank you all for joining us. And just like Stephanie said, hopefully this is going to be a much easier process for you all for entering your expenses than the Excel document. Like she said, this form with this simple URL up here at the top, and we'll be sharing this with everyone with a follow-up email. With a full detailed report on how to use it, step-by-step guide, along with this video for this session to walk you through how to use it. So if you don't pick up everything here, we'll have plenty of resources for you to learn how to use this tool as well. So starting out, the way you get to this form, whether you're on a tablet or a phone or your computer, is going to this URL, buildon.org/expense report. And this form is actually password protected. We don't want just any random person coming in here and filling out expenses for us. And that password is actually service. And we'll be sharing that all with you in the email and all the details that go out after this call. But to get access, the URL plus the password combination of service. And I'm going to actually walk you through on a mobile device too, once I go through the computer to show you the differences. But once you get into the form, it's pretty simple. You start out by selecting your office. So I'm going to fill it out for myself. And then you select who you are. And when we're talking about month and year, that's just tying it to the certain month that you're filling out your expense report for. So if you're filling it out for September, you would list September and then 2014. And what this is going to do is on the back end where all these results are going, we're going to be able to tie it to this month and to you as a person, as a staff member. And eventually you'll be able to look at all of your different expenses and manage them as well. But that'll be some information we share down the road at a later date. When you're filling out your expense, and this is basically a copy of the Excel document, but just in an easier to use format, easier to access format. You start out by filling out your description of your expense, which includes your business purpose for the expense, the details for the expense. So there are some guidelines, so just not very, very basic information in there, but something that really explains what your expense is. Then you move on to the date. And there's a calendar that pops up to allow you to actually select which date your expense was on. So if you were filling this out for today, and then you actually move on to the receipt number. And you can actually fill this form out for multiple receipts at once, multiple expenses at once. So if you're going through this, this is just going to help you manage what receipt you're on. So if you're starting out and maybe you have 5 different receipts, you can list this one as number 1. And then you actually get into the details of the expense. And this is how we code it on the back end for finance. So they know how to list these different expenses and categorize them. You'll start out by selecting your city, just like the Excel document. Your department for the expense, for what the expense was for. And based off of your different responses here, whether it's the city or the department, you'll see that if you select US programs, a different menu comes up. If you select international programs, a separate menu comes up, and so on and so forth, depending on which one you select. So let's run through one for international programs. And maybe it is a trek expense. So you'll notice as you continue on through the process, depending on what your selections are, different menus are going to be popping up. So you're not going to have to scroll through all the different codes like you would on the Excel document. You're actually going to be able to just focus in on your actual options. So it limits it to what your selections are as you go down the list. So once you select your category, you then move on to the phase. And again, you'll see that instead of having 30 different phase choices, it's now just limited to one because of your selections before that. And then the final selection is the account. And this is not limited. It just lists all the different account codes. And you'll go in there and find the correct one. So very, very basic, straightforward. You select starting with your department and just move on, and it guides you through the process, starting with department to program to category to phase, and then ending with account. And what we'd like you to do is actually attach your receipt here. So before you might have been managing this through email, tracking it. The day of your expense, you could actually list this one, take your receipt, take a picture of it, or attach a PDF. But when you're taking a picture of your receipt or a photocopy, make sure it's not just on a table with a bunch of other junk or garbage. Make sure it's really centered in on that receipt that the photo is, and you can attach that photo as a copy of your receipt. If not, follow the same processes like you were before when you were attaching a PDF to your email. You can also save your receipts as a PDF and attach them here as well. And then you actually enter in the amount for that individual expense. So a very straightforward process. Just follow along the steps, starting with your office, who you are, the month of the expense, and then the details for that expense. And if you're waiting towards the end of the month to enter all your expenses at once, or if you're going along just as you get them on a day-to-day basis, you can actually add multiple expenses at once. So if you're ready to enter another expense, you just go through the same exact process. Selecting your date for the expense, receipt number, and then all the correct codes, following that same process, attaching the receipt and the amount. And when you're done, and you can actually do multiple at once, but one thing to notice, when you're adding another expense, you're not going to click here. You're going to go up to the top one and add another expense. And that one will be added to the bottom. And there's no limit to how many you can add at once. If you have 5 or 10 different expenses, you can hit that button 5 or 10 different times, depending on how many different expenses you have. So when you're done, you just hit the submit button. And your expense has been submitted, and that's all it takes. So I'm going to take it back off mute here and allow you guys to ask any questions that